Welcome into Talking Ball. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. This week's episode brought to you by our friend Dr. Brett Robin over at Austin Orthopedic Institute. We're going to talk today about what Texas needs to do, Gerry, to get over the hump. We thought they did it against Oklahoma. They didn't against Kentucky. They kind of regressed. What do they need to do to get back up on top? There's a number of different things to talk about here, but primarily it's all on offense. Let's start with the offensive line because, look, if nothing else, whether it's physicality or just pass protection, something fundamentally has to change on the offensive front.
Yeah, it does. And look, I'm one, and I just going to remain the same. It starts with bringing physicality on the road in SEC play because in both games that Texas has gone on the road in SEC play, I think you would say that the opposite defense was more physical than the Texas offense to start. And so they have to bring the physicality. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean in terms of the run game with the offensive line? Does that mean being willing as a play caller to say second and 8's okay, 3rd and 6 is even okay, because that's where this team is at right now? But it has to start with the physicality, and then it goes to offensive line execution and communication.
That's where so look, when I agree with you to a level on physicality, because you're right. They were as physical, if not more so, than Oklahoma in Dallas. But when they went to Kentucky, when they went to Florida, they were not. And I feel like there's a level there. The thing that I would add is they just need to shore up pass protection and communication so bad. I don't know whether they had it figured out with Cole Hudson at center in the OU game. It looked like he and Nick Brooks, the new left guard, had kind of figured some things out. All of a sudden, you introduce a new center to the idea in Connor Robertson, and it looked like they reverted somewhat. I mean, there was one play where literally Nick Brooks let a guy walk up the middle on him and pop Arch right under the chin. The idea here is they need to, however they do it, whether it's with Connor Robertson or the return of Cole Hudson or the improvement of Nick Brooks, they have got to shore up the offensive line, particularly in pass protection. Yeah. Teams are going to blitz the ever-living you-know-what out of Arch Manning. They've got to shore up the offensive line in pass protection, or else this Texas team is going nowhere, and there's no play calls you can make that are ever going to be any good. And your quarterback is going to be chuck and duck, and that's just not going to work. But physicality and kind of shoring up pass protection, I think, are leading the way. Second piece for me, and it's better quarterback play, Gerry.
Yeah,
I mean, Texas needs Arch Manning to be more consistent, and I say this knowing that he has the tools to be, after we saw what we saw against Oklahoma, to be a guy that gets up off the dirt and finds his way. He needs to be able to do that more frequently than not. I mean, we're already 6 or 7 games into this season, and the Texas quarterback has been hit as much as he was hit all of last year. And so I think that there's some issues there with Arch Manning. What do you think Arch really needs to do and kind of concentrate on to get over the hump here?
3 road games this year as a starter. And I'm not sure you could say he really played well in any of them. I mean, he had some spurts against Florida. He had some spurt in the fourth quarter against Ohio State. But when you look at his season, Oklahoma was his best game neutral, the 3 cupcake games at home. But the 3 road games have not been quarterback play that gets you close to a college football playoff at the end of the day. I mean, you cannot – and it kind of goes – I think it all falls in line with everything, Bobby. It's like it's easier to blitz a team who, when the quarterback – you don't fear the quarterback making you pay.
Yep.
That puts more pressure on an offensive line, right? And that's more pressure on Arch, right? And you have to make whether it's the layups or the easy throws, and I'm not sure there's easy throws. I think that maybe we're glossing over it a little bit, but the throws you have to make, those have to be made. You can't go on the road in a really good league and Wingo wins a go route and the ball's 2.5 yards underthrown. Wingo didn't have a chance at that. Now, Wingo's had his drops too. Emmett Mosley on the slant, the play you're talking about, where Nick Brooks went for tackle help, and the A-gap blitzer linebacker was going to smoke Arch. Well, that's, as a quarterback, I know you're under duress, but that's got to be a catchable football. Jack injuries, whether there was miscommunication there sitting in the zone or not, those balls just aren't catchable. You're leaving too many opportunities for yardage in chunk plays and momentum-changing plays on the field. And I think it all goes hand in hand. But the biggest thing for me with Arch is one or two throws can affect the rest of the game. And I think that's where he's been at too much this season for me, is one or two bad throws, one or two bad series. And it's not letting go of that and then ascending from it. It's actually going the opposite direction like it did at Kentucky. I think he showed a little bit more against Florida, but he's got to find some road performance for this team to have a chance.
Especially when they're going to Mississippi State this weekend. I would also add in there, play call could be helped a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit more. One other thing that I think could help this offense, and we're spending almost all of our time on offense because, frankly, that's the bugaboo right now as far as the Longhorns are concerned. Inside run game.
Yes.
They don't have any inside run game. Everything's been stretch play to the outside, off tackle. And is that solely because of the lack of an inside runner like CJ Baxter, or Jerry, is it because they got Nick Brooks and a new center in there against Kentucky? I'm not sure 100%, but I have to think the lack of a big time inside runner is hurting stopping some of those blitzers. I mean, it really is getting into a situation where it's hurting the offensive performance over the overall, and taking, the even the thought that a team might try to lean on that opposing defense. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's like how this fits together or doesn't fit together. I think James Simon is the best pure inside runner Texas has. Well, he's also a freshman. So are you worried about, because your offensive line is struggling, you're worried about putting him in pass pro as the last line of defense? So they don't want to make it obvious if he's in the game that it's a run play. I mean, I'm past that point, though. I'm like, well, you threw Nick Brooks to the Wolves, right, in a position he'd never played in college. He never had a start before. Boom. I think it's time to do so with James Simon as an inside runner. And just you got to have to live with it, because you got to get the 3rd and 6. You have to. And the one thing I do agree with, and I agree with if this is the kind of the reasoning, is Trey Wisner can't touch it 25, 27 times a game in SEC play and have anything left the last couple.
Not every single game.
No, not every single game, right? It's not going to happen. He's not 5'11", 230. He's not that guy. He's not built like Cedric Baxter is. So they have to generate inside run game. And I do actually think with Nick Brooks, when he leans on people, with DJ Campbell, when he leans on people, I actually do think it's 2 and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Yes. But I do think that's where they have to go. And if you can have any success there, but you have to be able to live with 2-yard gains. But if you can have any success there, that helps makes the offensive line and pass pro and Arch's life easier.
It keeps the defense honest, Jerry.
Yeah, and the threat of it.
Kentucky was putting 7, 8 in the box. They were bringing 6 and 5 and 6 guys on every passing down. They had no concern about the Texas run game.
None
at all.
The week after Oklahoma, by the way, none.
Yeah, none, because they knew they could stop the outside zone.
Yeah,
and so how could they do it? Well, they got fast guys on the outside. Oklahoma, for whatever reason, and they were willing to play more guys at the line of scrimmage. That's the other thing. I mean, Oklahoma was not pushing up 8 guys into the box, 7 guys into the box. They were trying to play true and still create issues, and Texas ran them out of that. So we'll see how that goes. I have one more piece of this that I want to talk about that I think is more important maybe than some people would give credit to. Before we do that, I want to say this and say thank you to our sponsor. That's Dr. Brett Robin at Austin Orthopedic Institute. He's been sponsoring On Texas Football for a year now. Thank you very much, Dr. Robin. The former Longhorn running back knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health, Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacement. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. Jerry, before we go on to play calling, one more piece of this that I think that just has to occur. You mentioned physicality, and you talked about it from the guys up front. I'm going to add that to the tight ends and the wide receivers.
100%.
People are getting off their blocks too easily. They're not finishing blocks well enough. That is hurting the run game just as much. And look, I mean, it hurts the outside screen game.
Yes.
It hurts every aspect of your offense when your perimeter blocking right now is subpar. And frankly, it is.
It is. And look, so that takes away if you can't be physical on at wide receiver in your blocking game, which you have to be. It's a hidden thing that you have to be really good at and to have a complete offense. But if you don't have that, what good is a screen pass? What good is a swing pass to a running back? What good is a flip out to a wide receiver if you're not going to be able to block for that guy? And that was turned into negative plays. That's the difference. Those plays turn into negative yardage plays. That's like a 5-yard penalty, but you lose the down. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. If you can't hold blocks and sustain any blocks and win physically on wide receiver, then you can't flip the ball horizontally and think you're going to have positive plays. Those plays are going to be a high percentage of yardage loss. And that is the thing that I think that Sark has to try to that has to get better, first of all. And you kind of wonder if it is, because where are we at? I mean, we're in game 8.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't get better, you're limited then in your horizontal offense. You have no horizontal offense, so you're easier to defend.
Yep. That plus the lack of an inside run game gets people walking up on your corners.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it makes those perimeter blocks harder.
Yeah.
So I think all of it is part and parcel. One last piece that we didn't touch on much is the play calling.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like, and I think many people will agree, that what Sark did against OU seemed to work. And then he went away from that quite a bit against Kentucky. Is that necessarily true in your opinion, or did Kentucky force Texas to call a different game and then Texas didn't execute? And what I mean by that is this. I mean, Oklahoma didn't commit 8 guys to the box. They weren't lining up press across the board. Kentucky decided to challenge Texas. OU never really did that. Is that so? Was it the play call, or was it more how Kentucky defended Texas?
Yeah, look, I think Kentucky challenged Texas physicality in that game. Is what I think they did.
Right, from the wide receivers, tight ends down to the interior of the offensive line. Yeah,
they're like, all right, we're playing. We're bringing numbers, and we're going to play in your face. What are you going to do about it? I mean, and it's somewhat like Georgia, in a weird way, without as much talent. But again, I think that's where you got to have. That's where you got to have draws. You got to have traps. I mean, your run game has to be able to. Sometimes it's just about manufacturing a run game. It's not about big plays. And I think that's the toughest thing I'm not taking up for Steve Sarkisian. He came out and said he's got to do better. I think the toughest thing for an ultra aggressive offensive coach, play caller, is to do a 180 in his play calling.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the toughest thing to do for somebody, is to kind of lose who they want to be and accept who they have to be. And right now, I think Sark's at the point, and I think it's pretty obvious Monday, he's got to accept who he has to be.
Yeah,
and I think that's been I think that's been a part of this year, is accepting who you have to be to give yourself the best chance to win games. Now, and I know some of the thinking is great. So you score 20. If you do that and you score 23 points against Kentucky because they're not as talented as you are, what does that mean when you go play the more talented teams? Is that going to be good enough to win at Georgia. But I think we're past that point. I think you're past that point. I think it's accepting who you have to be right now the rest of the season. And you've talked about that in just different words, but that's where we're at. I mean, it's not what you want to do, but it's what you have to do.
Heck, Vanderbilt is a top 10 scoring offense right now. Even with the Texas defense, they're going to score some points.
Yeah.
If Texas can't put up points, what are you going to do? I would say this too. I'm not so sure that the smart play right now from a play calling perspective isn't to be patient and hold on to the ball a little bit and not go big game hunting like Sark is wont to do at times. And the reason why is, I mean, look, Texas' defense is really, really good.
Yeah.
You want them to be really, really good the rest of the way. They can't be taking on 80-plus plays a game.
Not going to work.
And so there needs to be some, and Sark likes to call it complementary football. That's part of what has to happen here. The other thing you mentioned, Sark talked about on Monday about needing to change. I'm intrigued by what he means by that.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen on Saturday, because is that going to mean, a couple of deep shots and a couple of try to move the ball kind of runs and screen passes and that sort of thing? Or what does that mean for him? I'm intrigued because he's saying he's going to do something different. Let's see what that is, Jerry. All right, that's going to do it for today's Talking Ball. It's brought to you by our friend Dr. Brett Robin over at Austin Orthopedic Institute. Again, offices in Killeen, Georgetown, and Austin. 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. All right, Jerry. We'll see you again tomorrow morning on Coffee and Football. But for now, you guys have a good day. Hook 'em.